Welcome to the study group.
Yay! Today we're going to talk about the rise of the industry. The industrial growth occurred in the Civil War during the Reconstruction era.
North emerged undamaged after the Civil War.
After the war was finished, the South had to rebuild, while the North only grew even more. Agriculture flourished in the South and the Midwest, and manufacturing increased in the Northeast. The rise of the industry took place in the 1800s. It was a time when people started moving to the cities to work in the factories, meaning less people working as farmers. It was a shift from agrarian society to an urban one. It was when manufacturing and machinery was being invented, and construction was advancing, along with transportation. It was a change from the individual producing products to factory production.
For example, if someone wanted a pair of shoes, a shoemaker would have to make and sew and cut the shoe by hand. But after the Industrial Revolution, people would have machines and they make a mass production of the shoes, getting the customers the shoes quicker. Okay, so we got a question asked by our fans, and our first question would be, who was the most influential figures of this era, and what did they do?
One of the most successful railroad producers was Cornelius Vanderbilt. By the mid-1850s, he had built the largest steamboat fleet in America, though he saw the future of transportation was in railroads. At age 73, he had purchased and merged 3 short New York railroads, then ran from New York City to Buffalo, creating the New York Central System. Within 4 years, he extended his railroad all the way to Chicago. He was one of the first to use the Westinghouse air brake, and the very first to lie a 4-track main line, meaning 2 tracks for the freight and 2 tracks for the passenger train.
The most remarkable example of the creation of a vertical combination was the Giant Steel Corporation built by Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie worked in a Pittsburgh cotton factory as a boy before rising to the position of working in the Pennsylvania Railroad in 1859. While working for the railroad, he invested in the iron companies. He saw the demand for rails, bridges, etc. So he left the railroad at age 30 to maintain an iron bridge company. For 7 years, he switched to steel. In 1873, he formed a group of investors to build the largest steel mill near Pittsburgh. Carnegie was the first person in the U.S. to use 2 new ways of making steel. He used the Bessemer process and the open hearth process. Carnegie, with his steel company, smashed other competitors. Soon after, Carnegie started comparing the business world to social Darwinism. Weak companies die while companies like Rockefellers and Carnegie's thrive. The most successful example of horizontal consolidation was the Standard Oil Trust, which gained a near monopoly of oil refineries and pipelines. The man behind Oil Trust was John D. Rockefeller. In 1862, at age 23, he put all of his money into a new and growing industry, that being petroleum refining, sometimes known as rock oil. This industry grew and Rockefeller invested in a Cleveland, Ohio refinery. By 1870, his firm was the largest refinery in Cleveland. He gained control of more than 90% of the nation's refining business. But to get this, Rockefeller used methods so brutal that when they were revealed, he became one of the most hated men in America.
The second question we were asked was to identify and explain at least 3 events that defined this era.
The invention of the Bessemer process revolutionized American steelmaking in the 1870s, later on being used by Andrew Carnegie in 1873 to build the largest and the most modern steel mill. The Bessemer process and the open hearth process allowed people to produce steel at a cheap price, soon making Carnegie the world's greatest steelmaker in the world.
It was discovered in 1855 that petroleum, when refined with kerosene, gave better light than what whale oil and lamps did. This led to the first oil well that set off a stampede in western Pennsylvania, making Rockefeller realize that oil refining was a safer and better than oil drilling. By 1870, Rockefeller's firm, the Standard Oil Company of Ohio was the largest in Cleveland, making Rockefeller the king of oil.
House air brake. This brake allowed the cars to stop simultaneously, later on being used by Cornelius Vanderbilt. He used this new brake on the New York Central system. At the same time, other events were occurring. Like, for example, C. Latham Sholes, a Wisconsin printer, invented the typewriter in 1868.
And Alexander Graham Bell immigrated from Scotland and while inventing the telephone and sent the first message.
Thomas Alva Edison invented the electric light in moving pictures. He was a great innovator who put the inventions of others to practical use. Example, the phonogram.
By the 1900s, machines had been designed to make, fill, and seal cans.
In 1893, the invention of the Northrop automatic loom led the manufacture of clothes at a faster rate.
So, another question we were asked was, how did this era change the United States, for the better or for the worst?
This era changed the United States for the better. Each new invention or discovery changed the way of life. This era was like a ripple effect era. Every new thing caused someone to use it, and then caused someone to improve it, and then caused someone to invent a new product. The industrial growth never stopped growing. All the new inventions and discoveries prove that this era was truly an era of growth. We have another question. This question says, connect this era to the present. How does this era inform us about what's happening today?
The rise in the industrial era shows us how far we've come from then. It proves that yes, indeed, that ever since this era, we have been in the ripple effect. Inventing, improving this invention, discovering new inventions. This is a never-ending cycle. In the rise in the industrial era, Bell invented the telephone, and then Edison improved it for longer distance calls, then eventually inventing the phonogram. The rise of the industry never really ended. The United States never stopped growing. It still continues to grow today.
Boom! Welcome to the study group.
The rise of the industry took place in the 1880s to the 1900s. Is that right?
Another example would be the most successful example of horizontal consolidation. Can I not say successful?
The industrial growth occurred after the Civil War, during the Reconstruction era. The industrial growth occurred after the Civil War, during the Reconstruction era. I just repeated that.
So whale's gonna bite Sam's head off.
They're different now. They're not the same. They're like whale. They're
Or not.